Hosea, God's relentless love for his wayward people. The Book of Hosea is a deeply stirring tale of love, betrayal, and redemption, set against the backdrop of Israel's darkest spiritual days. Hosea, a prophet uniquely called to live out God's heartbreak, reveals a divine love that persists even when it's spurned. His message is timeless. Sin, judgment, and love are inextricably linked in our relationship with God. In Hosea's day, this message warned Israel of the looming consequences of their unfaithfulness. Today, it resonates as a reminder of God's call to return to Him, even when we feel we've wandered too far. At the heart of Hosea's prophecy is the word return, used no less than 15 times throughout the book. This call to return to God isn't just a plea, but a passionate, almost desperate cry for a complete turn from sin and back toward holiness. God, through Hosea, urges his people to come back to him like a parent calling for a wayward child. Hosea 4:1 sets the tone. Hear the word of the Lord, you children of Israel. For the Lord has a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth nor mercy nor knowledge of God in the land. It's as if God is standing on trial, showing evidence against his own people. And what does he find? A nation devoid of mercy, lacking truth, and blind to the knowledge of God. Hosea's life reflects this relationship. God commands him to marry Gomer, a woman who would prove unfaithful, symbolizing Israel's own spiritual adultery. Just as Hosea experiences the pain and humiliation of betrayal, God feels the heartache of Israel's abandonment. But in a surprising twist, God instructs Hosea to buy Gomer back, to redeem her, to love her still. This redemptive love, so undeserved and so freely given, is the same love that God offers Israel, and offers us. Hosea chapter 11 verses 8-9 capture this divine tension. How shall I give you up, Ephraim? How shall I deliver you, Israel? I will not execute the fierceness of my anger. God's heart is torn, a father aching over his rebellious child, yet withholding the judgment they deserve out of love. The themes in Hosea are starkly real: sin, judgment, and love. Israel's sins are listed plainly: idolatry, ritual immorality, drunkenness, political intrigue, and a shocking level of violence. From the highest leaders to the common people, everyone is complicit. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 declares, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." This isn't ignorance of facts, but a deliberate rejection of knowing and loving God. It's a willful abandonment of their relationship with Him. Hosea uses vivid metaphors to describe this. He says Israel is like an unturned cake. Imagine a flatbread burned on one side and raw on the other, useless and wasted. This is Israel half-hearted, wanting to worship God while clinging to idols. Hosea warns them, "You sow the wind and reap the whirlwind." Their efforts are as empty as grabbing the wind, yet the storm they will reap is real, a whirlwind of destruction due to their own choices. Israel's spiritual adultery stems from their idolatry. They worshipped Baal, a false god of fertility, in hopes of good harvests and prosperity. The people participated in pagan practices, including ritual fornication, that were not just tolerated but celebrated as acts of worship. Hosea shows this betrayal as deeply personal. God had chosen Israel as his bride, entering into a covenant, only to see them embrace other lovers. Hosea himself endured this betrayal with Gomer, experiencing firsthand the pain and confusion that God felt. This is one of Hosea's most powerful points. Our sin isn't just a breaking of laws, it's a breaking of God's heart. As we continue, we see how Hosea's message shifts from judgment to hope. In Hosea chapter 14 verse 1 he pleads, "O Israel, return to the Lord your God, for you have fallen because of your iniquity." Hosea's words are an invitation to come home. It's the cry of a father calling his lost child, offering healing instead of punishment. And God's response? "I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely." Hosea chapter 14 verse 4. It's a picture of pure, unrestrained love. A love that doesn't hold grudges, that doesn't ask, "How could you do this to me?" but instead opens its arms to welcome the sinner back. Hosea's message is as relevant today as it was in his time. Sin might look different on the surface, But the underlying truth remains: we often seek satisfaction in things that cannot fulfill. Like Israel, we pursue idols, whether wealth, status, or power, believing they will bring us security and happiness. Hosea's message warns us of the emptiness of these pursuits. When we turn from God, we end up like that unturned cake, unfinished, unsatisfying, and unusable for His purposes. And yet, Hosea reminds us that no matter how far we stray, God is ready to forgive. His love doesn't end. It's always waiting, calling us to return. The lessons of Hosea are clear and piercing. Spiritual unfaithfulness leads to ruin. Israel's actions brought devastation on themselves. They had chosen to ignore God, and now they were reaping the whirlwind, a storm they had created by sowing seeds of rebellion. Yet Hosea doesn't leave us with despair. The book ends not with judgment, but with hope. Hosea chapter 14 verse 9 asks, "Who is wise, and he shall understand these things? Prudent, and he shall know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the just shall walk in them." To be wise, Hosea says, is to understand God's ways, to recognize that life with God is always best. When we walk with Him, we walk in truth and love. The Book of Hosea invites us to see God not as a distant judge, but as a loving Father, yearning for our return. It's a reminder that His love endures even when we fail, and that His arms are open wide to welcome us home. The story of Hosea is the story of God's relentless pursuit of His people, His willingness to redeem us even when we feel beyond redemption. It calls us to turn from our idols, to let go of the things that draw us away, and to come back to the one who loves us deeply and eternally. Through Hosea, God shows us that love isn't merely a feeling, but a steadfast commitment to our good. A love that is stronger than our sin and deeper than our betrayal. This is the love that calls us home.